So without further ado, let's just really get into this one. And sorry, I'm looking off to the side here because I'm just making sure that the stream is up and running, which it doesn't appear to be, because as always, I like to do it. Hi people, and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew. It's Chili here, and of course, what would be another stream of mine without a technical issue? Oh man, this is just embarrassing. I will be back in 5 minutes once I get this little technical issue going. Sorry guys, I'm back up. This is just embarrassing as always, man. I can't get this. I need someone to do my episodes for me, people. I need a technical advisor when it comes to live streaming because I have no idea what I'm doing. Hey, if anyone wants to do this for free, I will, be glad for you to do it. You get the chance to go to 240 subscribers. I swear, man, you guys can do it for free. It'll be fantastic. I'll pay you with likes from my video. So we have a lot of news to cover, and I'm sorry for the technical issues from earlier. Terribly sorry about that. Now, I was going to do an episode, actually, of a reaction to a video, which I've decided to hold off on, and that was basically some weird song history behind, various ones. Deep, dark, and wonderful histories behind songs. Instead, we're going to be talking about a few musical things that are going on around the world. So, without further ado, let's first of all talk about anniversaries, because everyone loves a good anniversary, don't they? Dark Side of the Moon came out 50 years ago, and that was on the 1st of March. We're a couple of days late to the party, but hey, I'm not really planning to cover it too much on this little live stream because I might actually speak to Wazza about doing a special episode covering that one. We might talk about Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd in general. Who knows, but to do an episode on that one and more in depth, I feel would do it more justice. There was a great little conversation I was having with someone on the poll talking about, or describing rather, Dark Side of the Moon versus another band, and I will get to that in a moment, but they had some very interesting thoughts regarding that album, saying what it did to music rather than what the other album did. So yes, 50 years ago, and of course there's been a whole bunch of stuff covered by Roger Waters in particular, who's been making headlines because Roger Waters wrote everything. No, I don't know, I think the musical media kind of pushed that one out of, pushed a narrative out there, and who knows, they did their thing. They've got to sell magazines, they've got to get headlines, they've got to get click in there, and of course Roger Waters does have an ego on him, that's for sure. Easy target. So yeah, that aside, people, Dark Side of the Moon, 50 years, people. Great album. If you haven't listened to it, make sure you do. Now, speaking of albums that did come out on this day, 37 years ago, the GOAT of all thrash metal albums, Master of Puppets, Metallica. We have talked about them in depth in a previous live stream, talking about how Metallica is the god of all bloody metal bands. When it comes to it, of course, they're the biggest metal band. They are the metal band. Highest selling out of anyone in the genre. Of course, Black Album, one of the most wildly successful metal albums out there. And people will say what they want to say about how they ventured off and died out the arse, I guess you could say, about that album and then onwards. But I liked it. A lot of people did like it. And you can say, of course, the same about Load, Reload, and everything else. I don't know about Saint Anger. We can talk about that less. Or even Lulu for that matter. But still, there have been a couple of really interesting albums that have pushed out. And of course, 72 Seasons is coming up. Now, speaking of Metallica briefly, they have a new single out as well. So that is pretty... It follows that narrative, and 72 Seasons as well. But yeah, Master of Puppets, people, we are talking about really probably one of the most perfect albums ever written when it comes to thrash metal. And Cliff Burton's last album as well. He would perish, I think, in a few weeks after Master of Puppets was released from memory. And, of course, Battery, Master of Puppets, the thing that should not be. Welcome Home, Sanitarium. Disposable Heroes, Leper Messiah, Orion, Damage Incorporated. Just a perfect album from start to finish. There is so many good tracks on this thing. You know what? There's no flaws on this album. I will say that. I will put it out there that in this album of 50 whatever it is minutes, 54 minutes, I don't think there's a dead moment in that. Never. It's a perfect album, people. It is the best thrash metal album out there. I'm saying it. I'm putting it out there. Tell me what you guys think. If you think there is another album, another thrash metal album that is better than Master of Puppets, I'd love to hear it. Because I guarantee you Master of Puppets blows it out of the water. You can say Rain of Blood, but Rain of Blood I should say. But I don't know. I don't see it as being better than. I still think Master of Puppets is just perfect from start to finish. Now, speaking of other albums that came out on this day as well, we have... this one is going to be reading off the script here because holy shit. Chumbawamba, if you guys can recall the band, they were the guys who did the song Tub Thumper. Anyway, Chumbawamba, the one-hit wonder band, they released their album on this day as well in 2008. And this album that they released, which is just shortened to The Boys Have Won, is actually, it holds a Guinness Book World of Records for the longest album title ever made by a band or musician. I'm going to read for you the full name of the album. So if you have to go into the bathroom, go ahead, do it now. The boy bands have won, and all the copyists and the tribute bands and the TV talent show producers have won. If we allow our culture to be shaped by mimicry, whether from lack of ideas or from exaggerated respect, you should never try to freeze culture. What you can do is recycle that culture. Take your older brother's hand-me-down jacket and restyle it, refashion it to the point where it becomes your own. But don't just regurgitate creative history or hold art and music and literature as fixed, untouchable, and kept under glass. The people who try to guard any particular form of music are, like the copyists and manufactured bands, doing it the worst disservice. Because the only thing that you can do to music that will damage it is not change it, not make it your own, because then it dies. Then it's over. Then it's done. And the boy bands have won. That is the title. That is the title of Chumbawamba's album, released on this day, everyone, in 2008. Wow, that's written like a goddamn part of an essay. Music theory, everyone. Right there, music theory. That's like some kind of bloody essay written by some first-year grad student or some shit like that. I don't know, man. It's interesting to have an album title called All of That. I don't know, man. I haven't listened to a lot of Chumbawamba. I've only listened to the one song, actually. That's all I've listened to from Chumbawamba, not this album. So I don't even know what the frickin' hell to say about that. I think it's incredible that the band have made an album so long, and I'm talking about it for almost as long as the album's title of time that it takes to say it. Moving on. Just quickly though, the album's title probably takes longer to say than to actually listen to. Anyway, moving on, everyone. Whitesnake is formed in March of 1978. Whitesnake, of course, were splintered off from the fragments of Deep Purple. So, interesting to know that they formed around this March period. Quite a successful story, actually, from their band. Massive hits out of them. So, I mean, I'm not the biggest Whitesnake fan, but I know a lot of people who do love them. You know, kind of like the Kiss of the late 70s and 80s almost. They're a weird band, I don't know. They're not quite glam metal, they're not quite rock and roll or anything like that. They're this weird in-between thing, and they did their own style, you know, it's like Boston or something. I don't know, man. Whitesnake, people, formed March 1978. There you go on this day, alright? Another one as well that's pretty intriguing to hear about. The Jeff Beck Group make a live performance debut with the then unknown vocalist Rod Stewart. This is 1967 on this day, everyone. So Rod Stewart's musical debut, 1967. Interesting as well, of course, with the Jeff Beck Group. You know, rock and peace, Jeff Beck. fantastic. Great way to start your music career, Rod Stewart as well, man. I didn't realise how old Rod Stewart was. I kind of forget sometimes, you know. I'm not a big Rod Stewart fan, but what can I say? Speaking of Jeff Beck, though, on this day as well, Eric Clapton played his last show with the Yardbirds, quitting on this performance. Their last performance with him was on this day, I should say, and he was replaced by Jeff Beck. So, not going too far away from there. That was 1965, everyone. So that's a pretty sick little thing to find out about that one. You know, the 1 degree of separation. Of course, the Yardbirds is like the connection point for all those bands in England around the 60s. So, you know, pretty cool stuff to find out about that. New albums for, you know, the new albums. What are the new albums that have come out, everyone? What is the newest albums that we want to hear? I'd like to know, because I've got a few ones that I've made noteworthy. We've got the Ace of Spades, Born to Booze. Now, this is a tribute band. I want to see who is on that. I want to see if it's a tribute band themselves or if it's a number of various musicians just performing Motorhead, covers. You know, it sounds like an interesting little collection of music. I am very interested to see what it's going to be like. So, everyone, Ace of Spades is going to be the name of that, and Born to Booze, a tribute to Lent. Of course, there is also Enslaved with Heimdall. That's going to be an interesting one. I will definitely check them out. Enslaved, that's a band I've heard very little about. I know that they kind of flew under the radar for back in the day, but I always heard their name, and I just never really listened to much of their music. From memory, I got one of their albums, and they're kind of extreme in a sense. They're kind of extremely metal. Could be thinking of someone else, but yeah, look, Enslaved, I'll be definitely interested to see what the hell they've got about themselves and to see what kind of stuff will be going on with that. The biggest one, the main point that I wanted to talk about when it came to new releases for today, new albums, is Stone Jesus, everyone. Father Light, Ukrainian doom metal prog rockers, whatever you want to say they are, they have produced their newest album. They have released it, I should say. After all this time of waiting, it's been something like 5 years, you know, and the crew have just put out this new album, Father Light. They've released, I think, 4 singles in preparation for it. There was a Porcelain, Con, Prayers and Thoughts, and, oh man, absolute mental blank on the 4th one there, but there was another one as well, and I tell you what, I've played it through twice already. Oh my god. You're going to have to wait for a 5-minute review on that one, guys. So that is going to be a really cool band to be listening to. If you haven't heard them, if you like your doom metal, if you like your, stoner metal, that era of that style, I should say, definitely check out Stone Jesus, because this is a really solid album so far. I can't wait to go into that review. You know, so it'll be very interesting to see. The other things, of course, as well. We have interesting news coming out of the Bandcamp of Stained, I should say, and that is that they have finished recording a new album. Now, this was a bit confusing to me because Aaron Lewis has been doing a solo career for quite a few years. He does a lot of country music, and I've covered him in an episode as well. He did an album, Frayed at Both Ends, I think it was. Very crappy album. But anyway, he's a country musician. He's changed his style. Everyone knew him from Stained back in the day. 14 Shades of Grey, Dysfunctional, Mud Shovel's the big song everyone would most likely know. But yes, when it comes to like new metal, alt metal, all that stuff, late 90s, early 2000s, Stained were a pretty big name. And the band kind of exploded and stopped after a little while. And Aaron Lewis came out, did his own little country gigs and stuff like that. And say what you will about Aaron Lewis, but he had a good reason when he was talking about it in an interview, saying why he stopped performing as Stained, which was because the music was dark, and he didn't want to go back and relive that day, those times in his life. So I mean, that kind of makes sense when you're looking at it, and no one wants to relive the shittiest times of their life over and over again on stage and have people reporting you for it. But you know, from what I gathered, at least from that interview, he wouldn't be touching Stained again. And I remember a couple of months ago they said the band had reformed, and I figured they were just going to do a tour and that would be it. There wasn't going to be much to it. But here we are. The band have recorded an album. I'm definitely going to be covering that one. I've got to say, though, out of bad albums, because 14 Shades of Grey is a very average to bad album, I like that album. I liked it a lot. And the only reason why, I guess, is because I got it when I was really young. And I remember playing it on loop and on loop and on loop. And, you know, when you're young and impressionable, and, this is your music, it's not something that's your parents' music that you're listening to, someone else's, music that, oh, here's a birthday gift, This was an album that I went out and purchased and listened to, and for that reason, the reason that I kept playing it over and over again, it got stuck in my mind, and I still enjoy it. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. Same with Limp Bizkit's Results May Vary. I can acknowledge it for a terrible album, but I enjoy it. I still enjoy it. I'm just an odd person like that, But yes, it'll be interesting to see how the band have gone after, how long has it been? 20, 15 something years like that? It's a long time. And especially with Aaron's views, let's say, to see if it seeps into the lyricisms of the band, because I really hope not. Let's keep Stained as Stained, and let's keep Aaron Lewis as Aaron Lewis, people. Just saying. So that's going to be an interesting little one there. The other side note I wanted to make was I started doing a few posts every one. I started to get more and more involved with some polls and stuff like that on YouTube, just to get an idea of the fan base and what you guys really enjoy. So I'm putting out there basically an image poll just saying, here's 2 albums, you have to erase one, which one will be erased? Now, I'm testing the waters with a few albums here, for example. The first poll, one of the first ones I did was AC/DC's For Those About to Rock versus Blue Oyster Cult's Agents of Misfortune. Agents of Misfortune was erased. So that one I kind of figured was going to be the case. I'm trying to do these regularly now so people can have more reason to come back to the community, because I want to get a community going. I want to see you guys up there. I want to see some comments saying, well, how could you comment? How could you put this up here? This is too hard for me, I want to make some tough decisions up there. I want to see some community spirit going in regards to this one. So the next one I had, for example, was Judas Priest Turbo up against Black Sabbath Sabotage. Turbo beat out that one. Got erased, sorry, I should say. So Sabotage continues for another day. This, I did another poll as well. Clarity from Jimmy Eat World versus, was it Taking Back Sunday, whatever it was. Tell All Your Friends. That was an interesting one because Clarity got erased. I was absolutely astonished. I thought for sure that Clarity would follow through. It's got such a big cult following, but it was actually quite overwhelming. So that was an interesting one to see the results on. I did a little cheeky one as well with Guns N' Roses. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 against each other. And that one was neck and neck. I kind of wasn't expecting that, but it's good to see as well. And Use Your Illusion 2, erased. So that's some interesting ones there. Here is another one that took me by surprise, especially by the numbers, was Deftones Around the Third versus Slipknot's first self-titled album. Or should I say first, because they did have that kind of demo album before that. So, what was it? Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, I think it was. Anyway, that was before Corey. But I had a few songs redone for the first album. So, yeah, Around the Third got erased. And by a fair bit, actually. So I'm surprised about that one. Now, one of the more recent ones was Dark Side of the Moon going up against In the Court of the Crimson King. This one caught me a little off guard. I thought this was surely a shoe-in, especially because it was released around the time that Dark Side was celebrating its 50th anniversary, just saying. But Dark Side actually got erased. I'm surprised Dark Side of the Moon versus King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. I'm surprised it got erased there. It is very interesting to see these results. And we have another poll that is up at the moment still, and basically it is The Cure's Disintegration versus Typo Negative's Bloody Kisses. And at the moment, well, it looks like The Cure might stick around for another day. So there were some interesting polls. I'm going to be pumping some more out next week as well. Follow our channel. Make sure you check that out because you know you want to put some comments. Let's get down to the nitty gritty, people, because this is the main things when it comes to the news. There are really just two more things to go over, and they're a bit more. Blink-182 has postponed their first leg of the reunion tour. Now, this is a very upsetting news to hear, especially when you're part of that first leg. But Travis Baker has to undergo surgery, basically during a rehearsal. He's smashed the drums, as he does. The guy's a psycho. He's like the Muppets on bloody crack cocaine behind that drum kit. He's smashing away the drums and hits his finger on the drum kit, basically dislocating it, tearing it from the ligaments, and it was really bad. So he has to undergo surgery to fix the damage that happened. Now, the statement was made on social media, and they had to cancel the first leg. So people, if you are watching this channel and you are part of that first leg, which involves tours in Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Brazil, Colombia, all of these concerts have been affected. All of them have been postponed until a later date, it looks like. So that's unfortunate. You know, if you're if you're a Blink fan, keep some updates in regards to that. We'll also hope Travis gets past that little instance of stuffing up his finger. But yeah, look, hopefully he gets over it quite soon and can be back in touring ASAP, because we all want to see Blink, everyone. I haven't got the tickets. I don't know if I will, but it'd be very interesting if I could go. Just saying. But yeah, look, Blink-182 postponed their recent concert. That's just unfortunate. But the biggest news, the biggest breaking news for the last 24 hours is in regards to the Blues Festival, I should say, of 2023, the lineup, and the exclusion of Sticky Fingers. Now, this news has broken as of yesterday, so there's a whole hornet's nest when it comes to this, because there's a lot to uncover. There's a lot of things that we have to talk about, but the Blues Festival, and I had to get the poster because I really haven't looked at it too much. I know it's around. I know it's always around Easter, so I can never see it. I'm always busy at Easter. But there's some interesting little headliners here. It's a long, it's a couple of days, I didn't know that. But yeah, you got looks like the headliners are Gangs of Youths, I should say, Paolo Nutini, Tash Sultana, okay, and Bonnie Raitt, I think it is. We've also got there's some other people here with the Doobie Brothers. Interesting there. Buddy Guy, cool. Joe Bonamassa. And you've got some other people here I was reading. What was it? Beck. Counting Crows. There was, I'm sure I saw the Cat Empire. There we go. I thought they had retired from music. Maybe this is their last tour. I remember they were saying something that they were stopping. There's Keb Mo. The Angels always seem to be doing a tour around this time of the year anyway. But yeah, the Angels are doing as well. There's a big list of musicians here. Xavier Rudd, there we go, another one. So there's quite a few big bands performing over the 4 days when it comes to it. But biggest controversy was when Sticky Fingers were added to that lineup in the very last minute. A couple of weeks ago, they were announced, not headlining, but they were one of the main acts that were going to be touring, that were going to be doing the festival. Now, when Peter announced this, Peter Noble, who is the director for Bluesfest, there was a little bit of kickback, because when you look at Sticky Fingers, I think it's the singer Dylan Frost. Anyway, Dylan Frost, he's got a little bit of controversial history. In the past, there have been allegations of violent behaviour, racist and transphobic actions and stuff like that. So there's a lot of murkiness behind Dylan. You know, all stuff that we not really frowned upon, I guess, when you're looking at it. But he is also a person who suffers from a mental issue, a mental illness, I should say. He's bipolar and bipolar schizophrenia. Not saying it's an excuse, but it kind of is at the same time. Sorry, but you know, it's a very complicated issue, isn't it? Because these are heavy allegations. I mean, especially violence. No one wants to have people who are violent around them. Racist as well, and transphobic behaviour. I mean, all of these things that they're hitting all of the marks, especially in today's society. You know, especially even for back then. But still, there is a lot of things to unfold. Now, the other thing as well is these allegations do go back a few years. I haven't had a deep dive. I don't fully follow Sticky Fingers, but a lot of these allegations seem to go back to like 2016. You know, so we're talking about 8 years, 6, 7 years, a couple years ago. We're talking about years ago, right? Now, I guess there is that murky history. So, Sticky Fingers now has that kind of aura around them, and people are taking note. And one of those people who did take note was the musician Sampa the Great, who was part of the festival. I say was because when she found out that they were going to be part of this festival, she pulled out. She withdrew from Blues Festival and announced, I am not going to be part of this. I do not want to be part of the Blues Festival because Sticky Fingers is part of them, because the guy is hatred, the guy is a racist, blah, 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 all that stuff you can imagine, of course. So that is some blowback, you know. Now, Peter Noble had to go on the defensive. Basically, he wanted to give them a chance. You know, he has stated that let's move on from the past, and Noble deserved another shot at redemption when it comes to music. But there's a lot of public people, there's a lot of people out there in the public, I should say, who will give backlash to all that kind of stuff the moment that you hear that there has been a statement made in the past. That's it, you are branded for life, people. That's it, your choice. So, bugger redemption, everyone. There is all this feedback, we don't want them on, we don't want them, everyone. So due to public pressure, and a musician of course cancelling, Bluesfest cannot sadly continue to support Sticky Fingers by having them play our 2023 edition, and we apologise to those artists, sponsors and any others we involved in this matter through our mistaken belief that forgiveness and redemption are the rock on which our society is built. So of course, a lovely little statement there by Peter Noble. That's fantastic to hear. I think that kind of speaks for itself. At which point do we give redemption, or do we vilify them for the rest of their lives for the actions of their past? When news broke of Sticky Fingers being removed from the lineup, King Gizzard Lizard also announced that they would take themselves out of Bluesfest. So, Sticky Fingers goes, King Gizzard goes. And they have also, and King Gizzard have released a following statement as well when it comes to this. We are deeply disappointed to be in this position, but sometimes you need to be willing to make sacrifices to stand up for your values. So, they're out. Sorry, I actually just read that statement. That was from the 20th of February. I think they pulled out before it. I might have had my facts backwards in regards to that one. I'm terribly sorry, people, because I saw that was actually a previous date. So it looked like King Gizzard removed themselves prior to this. Sorry for the confusion. This was all written about an hour ago. So, King Gizzard left, sorry, as well as Summer. Now, the main point still stands of what I'm trying to say here. Because I think a lot of lawsuits are obviously going to fly out of band camps and, promoters everywhere, people cancelling and stuff like that, just out of the, I wouldn't say out of the blue, I guess, but that'd be a bad pun if I did. But still, there's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be a mountain of lawsuits. You're talking about breaking a contract based on social merit. It's a difficult one because it's most likely, of course, the lawyers are going to be the ones who are victorious out of all of this. I'm sure the people who have backed out because of these actions, because of wanting to stand on higher ground or whatever, they're going to face these legal ramifications unless there is a loophole that can get them out of the contract. But I don't entirely see that. And this is the unfortunate thing, is because that could cause a lot of problems down the line for the future of the festival, I reckon. Music festivals are in an extremely brittle state at the moment. Fresh out of COVID, we just kind of need to pump out these festivals and get people going through the doors. When people seeing live music. So all this drama at the moment where, I don't want to perform because this guy was performing and in the past he said this, is no good for the listeners. It's really bad news. As a music fan, imagine you're going to a festival and there's a late minute edition of this band, and that's wicked. But now because this band's going, that band is now going. Oh, but that's the band I wanted to see. Now I'm going to cancel my ticket. Because why would I want to go if my favourite band's not going to go? So there's going to be so much confusion around this. And that's kind of where we're at. There's just going to be all these lawsuits slapped around for sure out of this. And I don't think it's going to be the last we're going to hear out of it either. I think this is going to be like months later down the track we're going to hear something else. Not even that, probably weeks. Now, the question I wanted to raise is if these are allegations, or if they are true or not, but these allegations are from the past. And do we continue to judge a person on their past actions up until today? At which point is redemption beyond? What gives? What is that point? Where is that break in reality? Because I'm sure if you go through the history of several bands, there is a lot of dumb shit that people have said, done or otherwise. You could break down so many musicians, and if you don't separate the musician from their music, you're going to have a lot of issues. Take for example Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent has some incredibly wild theories and political views. I don't follow his beliefs. I don't have to follow his beliefs. It's up to me. But I love his music. And I separate the musician from who he is as a person. I can live with that. I can live with that. Can you though? Here's a few other examples that I wanted to talk about. Because if you went through the history of a lot of musicians, then we wouldn't have a lot of music to listen to because, well, there's a reason we can't listen to this band because of X, Y, Z. Put simply, Michael Jackson. We all know the history that he has gone through, and there's been some very curious statements that were raised around the Neverland, right? If we are to continue listening, I mean, how can you continue to listen to Michael Jackson, especially given those past events? It's a conundrum. I love Michael Jackson. A lot of people love Michael Jackson. He's one of the biggest selling musicians ever. But are you going to discredit the entire music? Are you going to discredit all his music because of his actions? It's up to you to decide. How about R. Kelly? Just recently got in the news again because he's facing something like I think he got another 20-something years added to his prison sentence for his expressions. Because I don't want to say those words on this live stream. But are you going to stop listening to his music? Rolf Harris, another one. Static X, they've got history when it comes to Trip Eisen, but not the band. The Used. You know, these are band. The Used, I think it was. They got rid of all their music. I'm sure it was the Used, or am I thinking of another band? But I'm pretty sure it was the Used. Given the history of what happened, removed all their music, so they took the prerogative, I guess. It's up to the band what they wish to do. Queens of the Stone Age, for example, with Nick Olivari, and the allegations of abuse that he did. They fired him, got rid of him out of the band. You know, what the actions of the band, it's up to them. Nick Olivari still writes music, I still enjoy the music. Do I think it's a piece of shit for his actions? Sure, I guess. Is he beyond redemption? No, he's not. For the actions of what we once were, should we be judged for the rest of our lives? It's a weight that they will be carried over their heads, of course. But can the person change? Yes, is the answer. When it comes to other musicians, I mean, shit, this list could go on for a very, 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 very long time. But, you know, if we were to say John Lennon, one of the most famous musicians out there, was a spouse. Well, I'm pretty sure he was a spousal abuser. I remember reading some stories about it. Anyway, pretty bad alcoholic as well. There were some interesting things when it came to John Lennon and his history. You know, but the Beatles are still around and a big thing, aren't they? It's a bit hard just because they're famous. Do they get a free get out of jail card? What about Elvis Presley making the news again? Because, I mean, shit, he's never out of the news. But obviously the biopic came out recently and everyone's got Eric Presley fever. They want to listen to his music again. The guy's been dead longer than he's been alive, I'd say. But still, you know, he lived with his future wife Priscilla when she was 16. Nothing sus there. What about Jerry Lee Lewis? Great Balls of Fire. Very famous songwriter from the 50s, who also happened to marry his cousin when she was of age at 13. Pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up indeed. Maybe there were the times, but I think the biggest one that you can make a point on, though, is Eric Clapton. Easily the biggest point you can make. Eric Clapton, most people should know of Eric Clapton, of course. His time with the Yardbirds, Cream, his solo career, I should say, and of course working with so many other guest musicians throughout the years. He is a very interesting person when you look into his history, because if you look into his history, there's a lot of shit. I mean, just recently, for example, he came out as a, anti-COVID and all this stuff. He's had some weird views. Doesn't want to get the jab. Fuck it, fine, whatever, that's your thing, I guess. But when you go over his past, and I mean, stuff in the 70s and the 80s, he has said some very outlandish shit. You know? Stuff that I can't repeat in a live stream. But I guarantee Eric Clapton, if he was on that bloody festival, he would be welcomed with open arms. I guarantee you, if Eric Clapton was part of the Blues Festival in this lineup, and King Gizzard or whoever wants to quit because Eric Clapton's on the bloody list, then they wouldn't give shit. Because you know who's pulling in the numbers? Eric Clapton. That's who. But the question was, and I bring this up again, because Eric Clapton, I mean, one thing I can say about him, he was bringing people up on stage in the 80s for a political party in England who were extremely racist. Or questionably racist, I should say. very questionable views, we should put. So Eric Clapton has got a very shady history, and I know that he has said that he has regretted those actions that he made in the 70s and 80s from that political party. It's something he's going to live with for the rest of his life. I mean, man, he's worked with several musicians, several blues artists. You know, he just, like, for example, Eric Clapton works with B.B. King. Ride to the King, man, great album. But still, like, he's worked with so many other artists. Is he beyond redemption? No, no one is. So Sticky Fingers have been cancelled. It's unfortunate that the actions of someone from years ago have made light again, especially when they are suffering from bipolar schizophrenia. It's unfortunate that they are the reason that they've been cancelled. Because at what point do you stop judging someone for this little action, for this action, I should say, and allow them a chance to reproach themselves? So that is the main thing I wanted to talk about on this episode, because it's a slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope. Times have changed, everyone. For better or for worse, it's up to you. But all the musicians out there, you're out there to perform a job. Perform music. Because that's what it's about. You can have your political views, but they're just that. Your views. Not everyone has to agree with them. And at the end of the day, you're a musician. Write the music. Because even the strongest political musicians out there still don't have to take it on board. It's up to us. But it's unfortunate news, and it's an unfortunate cloud that is overhanging the Bluesfest fire in 2023. But I guess that's news for today. So yes, that's been the episode for today. I wanted to talk about that because it was very interesting to read. It was a complex issue, I guess. Is there a right or wrong answer? Don't think so. When you think about it, you might take you might see it as the moral high ground. Yes, they've had previous transgressions. We have to smite that out. Yes, call it out. If comments were made yesterday, call it out 100%. We don't want to see the actions of racism and all that rear its ugly head in this day and age. But at the end of the day, if the actions were years old and as a person we change, then there's an opportunity to close that door on their past lives. Because if you don't help them engage, if you don't do that, then you're just closing that off and letting them stay in that mindset. So there's no right or wrong answer. That's how I feel. But I'll be curious to see what you guys have to say regarding this. What do you think? Do you think that Sticky Fingers were justly removed from the festival? Do you think they were unjustly removed? I'd like to hear your thoughts, people. As always, you have a great day, everyone. I hope you stay spicy out there, because that's all I want you to do. Hey, and if you can do the socials as well, that'd be fantastic. Smash that like button, subscribe if you enjoy the content. We are doing short videos every so often. Yesterday, so make sure to check out the channel for plenty of other material that you may enjoy. And of course, have a good day out there. Stay spicy.